One of our structural engineers called in and said, we need to do a structural inspection inside of a greenhouse. There's birds flying around. Can't get a boom truck up there. So can we use it?
On this episode of the RCN Podcast, the Director of Reality Capture and Geospatial Solutions at IMEG, Eric Vallejo.
This tech school, that's where I really learned this is mapping, this is GIS. I can be out in the field. I can kind of get my hands on this stuff.
These technologies have literally created a whole industry and massive career opportunity.
And the trust to invest from the VPs and the CEOs, 70 grand or 100 grand, or I kind of underestimated the effort and time that it was going to take.
Sure.
The pain points were...
All right, welcome to the Reality Capture Network podcast. We're excited to have another fun recording for you today. In studio here, we have Eric with IMEG. Thanks for joining us today.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Well, to start, let's tell the audience, the listeners, the community a little bit about you and, you know, your role, what company you're with, and then we'll jump back into like your story. So first of all, you know, what's your position, what company you're with, and what do you guys do?
Sure. So Eric Vallejo, I'm Director of Reality Capture and Geospatial Solutions, quite possibly the longest title within our firm. So my current role right now is really to kind of help support our reality capture team, which includes scanning, drones, subsurface utility engineering, dabble in a little bit of GIS, and some other fun stuff. So what I primarily do is I'm a solutions guy. So you know, within IMEG, you know, we're up to about 2,500 people right now. We got about 80 offices nationwide. Those services include mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structural, and then kind of my specific silo where I kind of came up was the civil survey side of things. So long story short, I really kind of help facilitate action. I do vet out you know, new products, new gear to see what type of tool would be right for the specific situation. And just kind of help basically just problem solve and connect people with either our team or resource that can help get a specific project done. Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll throughout the time here we'll dig deep into like technologies and use cases and projects. But before we get into that, I really like hearing the story of each individual that comes on our show. I think there's value in like hearing the journey, even apart from, hey, what technology are you using, but like, where did you get into to begin with, and what was your background? What did your career look like to lead to today? So take us back a little bit, like where you grew up and kind of your journey into the industry.
Sure. No, it's a fun story, and I love sharing it because it's just kind of the ripple in water, and it just kind of increasingly expands. But I grew up in the Midwest. I was born in Illinois, Rock Island, Illinois. Grew up there. You know, mom and dad, you know, we're just, you know, making ends meet. My dad got laid off. We ended up moving to Ohio. Went to grade school, high school there. Went to community college. Actually dropped out about halfway through. Realized I couldn't be a server or a waiter at a Perkins for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So ended up deciding to go to a 2-year tech school down south in southeastern Ohio there. So I was never really kind of a book smart kid. Fortunately, this tech school kind of offered more of like, all right, we're going to get out there. We're going to kind of do stuff. Kind of funny because my initial thought back then, admittingly, I was a bit of a hippie. I wanted to be a park ranger.
Yeah.
So they had this park ranger program that I went down for. I don't know who the gentleman was or who the counselor was that I talked to. He talked me out of it and said, hey, basically this technology that you're going into for park rangers, like everybody wants to be a park ranger. They don't make any money. You know, you can go for it, but just kind of a heads up. This isn't everything wants to do. So he said, we got this new program. This is back in 97, right? 1997. He's like, we got this new program. It's called Geographics. It's GIS and GPS, and it involves, you know, being out in the field, mapping, surveying, working with computers. And for some reason, he talked me and steered me towards that path. It just kind of intrigued me on that side of things. So the tech school was amazing. I basically got straight A's, you know, A's and B's, didn't miss a class, but that's where I really learned to like, this is mapping, this is GIS, this is, you know, I can be out in the field, I can kind of get my hands on this stuff, I can actually build it, see it, and create it. that's what kind of really kind of launched me into that direction. So then after school, right? So wonderful 2 years of school that I had down there. Can't thank him enough. Again, whoever that guy is, thank you.
Yep.
So went on from there graduated in 99, moved up to Columbus, Ohio, and then I got on with a survey crew up there.
Cool.
So pounding hubs, running instrument, doing all the fun stuff. Yeah. Breaking hammers and getting yelled at and just, doing stupid stuff, but obviously, kind of learning along the way.
Yeah.
So that was great experience for me. So then from there, worked there for about a couple years, ended up moving to Missoula, Montana. I kind of had visited out there a couple times, had a buddy out there, and got on with a firm out there, Territorial Engineering.
Cool.
And Mark Milan, one of my mentors, he was actually there. I still work alongside him.
Very cool.
That's a whole nother story. Basically kind of showed me the ropes. But so I literally walked into, this is where kind of a little bit of a path change here. I ripped out, this was before, the internet and smartphones and stuff, ripped a page out of the phone book of all the civil engineering land surveying firms in town, walked around with my resume, walked into Territorial. They saw I had a CAD class and then some survey experience. What they really needed was a drafter. So, hey, do you know CAD? And I admittedly, I know how to draw some circles and lines, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So, whatever, started that next Monday. They put me at a desk. I started drafting. I was their third survey crew, because I already kind of knew, had an understanding on that side of things. And before you know it, I was really putting everything together.
Yeah.
At that point, we were using Land Desktop.
Yeah.
And I figured out we had this huge roadway project up a ski mountain, up a ski hill. It was Snowball Road. I figured out how to utilize running sections and templates and basically corridors before they were called corridors, up the mountain so we can do some slope staking and catch and, some of the fills and cuts on all this stuff. And, first, the surveyors are always skeptical, right, of any of this new technology, but we were able to kind of holy crap, this actually works kind of stuff. So really starting to kind of just figure stuff out on that end, right? So worked with them for a few years, moved back to the Midwest, got a lot of valuable experience from those guys, and then moved back to the Midwest for a couple years, and then I got on with Missman, that's now IMEG now, and around that 2006, 2007 period, Civil 3D came out. So by that time, I was still doing some field stuff, but I was slowly gravitating more towards the office and kind of modeling side of things. And then just with the release of Civil 3D, I just kind of grabbed that bull by the horns and was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was too is I was never really good at looking at a set of plans, right? They're flat, they're on paper, you got all these 2D line work and things like that. I actually had trouble visualizing what was actually out there, what were we actually building, right? So I was one of those people that had to go out to the site and actually see it for myself.
Yep.
So with the introduction of Civil 3D and being able to 3D orbit things and kind of do stuff like that, I'd be like, there's a pipe coming out of the ground over here, or oh shoot, I didn't know that hillside was that steep, or things like that. So a lot of that was that's where kind of the light bulbs ticked off. Let's take this to the next level. So I kind of helped develop our standards with that side of things, and then by that time I'd kind of gained the trust of my peers and some other folks, a lot of buy-in on that side of things, and then fast forward a little bit, we got acquired by IMEG. At that time, IMEG was primarily a MEP structural firm, so we were kind of picked to kind of head and lead up their civil side of things.
Awesome.
So with that, because of my survey experience, some of the things that we were getting into on the survey side was laser scanning and drones. So
about when or what year would that have been when you first started hearing or getting into scanners or drones?
So that was probably about 2015 or so. Okay. 2015, 2016, we bought SX10 scanner.
Okay.
And then shortly thereafter kind of came our first drone.
Cool.
But right, so we got the scanning technology. It's like, okay, then we merged with IMEG, and it's like, we can do scanning now. We can do scanning now.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a total station first, and we understood that. But it was just kind of like, okay. So we did get a couple projects. We fumbled around with it a little bit.
Yep.
Those things were like 15-minute scans.
Yeah.
So it did take a lot longer. There was a lot more effort than we actually thought it was. But again, it was it's kind of a learning experience. But that's when, so that's kind of the start of it. And then, fast forward to today, we're up to about 15 scanners and about close to 20 drones.
Yeah.
And then pilots all across the nation. And then same thing with certified scanning techs.
Sweet. That's awesome.
That's the short story. I could actually talk about it. I think it's fun. I think it's awesome. I actually like looking back because it makes me appreciate how far I've come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it would be awesome to rewind back and talk a little bit through the journey that you experienced and maybe your company and your team, and as you started getting into the technology, and then what that next few years looked like, of like what was the initial use case, and or what were some of the big pain points or struggles those first few years, and take us on a little bit of that.
Yep. So kind of when we really started to get into scanning, so we had the SX10, is the greatest thing since sliced bread. We could use it for our survey work, obviously primarily. The first few projects that we did, we kind of, I'll take credit for it, I kind of underestimated the effort and time that it was going to take.
Sure.
A lot of it's on me. I'm a very optimistic person.
Yep.
I don't say no too well. So yes, we can get it done. In the end, we did get it done. But the pain points were, holy crap, we got to get above that ceiling, or we need to get around that wall, or we need to figure out, we didn't set any control, we need to tie all this stuff together. Then on the registration part, we don't know how to model in Revit, we don't know, the people that we're helping out, they don't deal with many point clouds or things like that. So I think I knew, so at that point it was just more or less, we're learning, right? Yep. And I'm one of those, I make engineers cringe in a sense, because engineers kind of like to, plan out, see what's going to go wrong or what's not. Whereas I'm just going to go do it and dive in and figure it out.
We need both sides.
Correct. You're right. So we made a lot of mistakes, on the answer, but a lot of it was we were just learning and we just didn't know.
Yeah.
And the technology, has obviously evolved since then. So at that time, that's just what it was on that side of things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing with RCN, with the podcast and conference and wanting to build an education center, is historically, and even up to today, if a company wants to get into scanning right now, what are the good resources out there to help exact what gear is the best fit for the type of use case you're doing, and what are the best workflows, and how do you approach a house size job versus an airport size? Everybody that's gotten into it the last 10 years has had to just say, okay, I have no idea. We know what the technology can do. It can scan, it looks cool, but how do you really build it into a program and turn it into a business operation or integrate it into projects? And everyone's had to learn it the hard way. And it took some guy to say, I'm willing to go through it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to approach it. I don't know all the answers. We're going to trial it. We're going to figure it out. And that's just been one of the pain points of these technologies, is you just have to be willing to struggle a little bit and learn and implement changes.
Yep. And on the opposite side of that, right? It's one thing if I'll do it, I'm going to figure it out. But you got to get buy-in from, the VPs and the CEOs and things like that and the trust to invest $70,000 or $100,000 or, even $20,000, for a drone or something like that. So, fortunately on my end, because of the relationships that I've had with, my 20 years with Missman, now IMEG, a lot of that was with our VP. So he's kind of seen, he trusts me. And there's a lot and I can't say enough how blessed I am to have the support of that staff, but that's a huge component of it too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and honestly, it takes the buy-in from the bottom and from the top, right? Because in order for adopting a technology or creating an innovative process for it to go successful, you have to have the buy-in from the top of, hey, financially, we need to invest, we need to buy this. And now from the bottom, you have to have the team to say, we're willing to try to take the data and use it, or we're willing to learn this new program to integrate, point clouds into models or drone data, and I think that's that struggle where sometimes companies might look at the technology and say, "Oh, all we got to do is buy it," and now it's good. We're going to integrate it.
Right.
You got to think about that whole ecosystem and really a whole change in culture and mindset for the people in the organization.
Exactly. And we were in a good position too, right? So our first scanner was the XX10. Since then, the good thing about our program and what we're doing is it's survey driven.
Yeah.
Right. So survey owns it. They're the leaders in it. They're the ones that are troubleshooting and figuring out. They understand the whole concept of, they're, for lack of a better term, they're accuracy whores.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's, that's a whole nother conversation, right? But they understand the importance of, let's spend 2 more hours out in the field to get it right, to save a day or 2 inside of the office kind of deal. But yeah, if it's you're right about that end. So if it wasn't for, obviously the top end of things of, trust, investment, but also the guys that I work alongside to help me kind of drudge through that. I mean, they save my ass more than once, as far as me talking trash about hey, we can do this, right? Like I said, I'm a yes guy. I'll figure it out. And like I said, I make people cringe on both sides of the aisle there, but in the end, we get it done. We find a solution.
Yeah, so. That's awesome. While we're on the topic of like leadership and then entry level and the buy-in, and I'd love to just hear some overall thoughts from you as a leader in your role and kind of working with bringing people in and growing. Like what would be some of your tips, I guess, even for leaders? Because you guys have obviously, I'm sure there's been struggles there, but you have gone through that process of the early adoption of trying to scale a program, scaling the buy-in. You're obviously having to get staff in those roles that are hard workers, that are willing to also be innovative and think outside the box. What's some of your leadership journey in that looked like? Yeah,
so there's always some politics to it, right? But so politics aside, a lot of it is, and I can speak for myself, and what's made us successful is just kind of that passion, right? If obviously you're investing in this piece of equipment, you're investing in me, you're investing in our group. We need to provide results, right? So that means showing off use cases. That means, presenting at a conference. That means getting in front of an architect and kind of showing off, kind of what you do. So, as far as, the leadership goes, side of things, I mean, there's a lot of persistence and there's a lot of proving yourself, and you have to be able to articulate that and be able to share it. One of the things I do is I make sure, I travel a lot for business, and a lot of it is to some of our other office locations. Mm-hmm. I make sure I go into that office, and whoever the leaders are in that office, hey, how you doing? Let's go to lunch. Let's go to dinner. I'm bragging about what we're doing. I'm showing them, right? Because it's a scary, hard concept to kind of grasp sometimes, and a lot of people still don't understand. And and that's okay, right? That's part of my job, is to kind of basically say, hey, this is how this can help you, right? Yep. I mean, a simple example is okay, hey, Eric, we need to, how much is it going to cost to scan this area or this building? And then, we'll say it's $5,000. And they'll say, well, how does that work, or what does that do? And then that might be too much, or, and then I kind of retract it and I say, if we didn't laser scan it, how would you measure this?
Yeah.
Are you going to send 3 engineers in here? You're going to napkin sketch this up. You're going to get it back to somebody to pop into Revit. Then they're going to fat finger and how much is that going to cost?
Yeah.
So having conversations like that to basically, again, just making sure the light bulb goes off on the opposite side of the conversation. and then actually showing them, right? Having examples of, this is what the deliverable will work like. That's kind of that's a whole nother challenge, right? Is setting expectations, and then kind of working your way backwards on that side of things, because again, this is still new to a lot of people and in the industry. So, in short, man, just really persistence, staying on top of it, having a passion for what you do, but also being able to, talk the talk and back up the talk by walking the walk.
Yeah.
So it's right. So I am a drone pilot. I am certified in our Faro scanners, things like that. I took the class. Yep. I sat in on it. So like I'm not just sitting here just talking smack about, what we can do. I can actually do it.
Yeah.
So, and that helps out a lot, right? And that comes from, the guys that are, following you or following your lead or trying to take direction from you, but also too from the people that you're actually talking about, because you'll get with some architects or some some Revit modelers that they know what they're talking about, and they'll try to trip you up and things like that. So, understanding the technology and just, having that passion and persistence is huge. And then brag about your successes, share your successes.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, the education piece, again, it's why I'm putting a big focus back to it now, is like, look, I could keep diving in myself and just know what I've done successfully, what's worked, what headaches I've hit, and I could keep that information myself and just grow my own little thing. But I've gotten to the point, I'm like, look, I feel like that is what is hindering the whole industry from expanding. And everyone's done this. Everyone's gotten their own little case studies. They've hit their head on the wall. They've figured out ways to do things. And I'm like, look, there's no one spot in the industry that's actually starting to share all of it. Like, we should be working together as a community that's in the technologies. And again, all of it, from scanners and drones to BIM to VR to digital twins, whatever it is, we should have a community that is willing to come together and share the pain points and share the success stories. Absolutely. Because ultimately, that helps us all educate clients and owners and other divisions and other departments on a industry-wide, all across construction, all across the built environment, which will increase the adoption. Because even though some of us have been in this for 10, 12, whatever years, there are still, if I had to guess just based on the amount of firms I talk to, I'm like, I think we're still at like less than 20%. Maybe 10% of companies that should or could be utilizing all of these technologies or even touching them.
Right.
Some of us that have been in a while feel like, oh, this is normal now. We have, 20 scanners, whatever. Well, if you actually look at the volume of architecture, engineering, construction, companies and projects around the country, or then even globally, we're just like barely started.
Right.
And even the projects that we're started at, I like to talk to people about, like, historically, scanning was like, let's go capture this building for just an as-built so they can use it in design, and then it gets thrown away. Now we're even starting to move even further to where it's like, no, let's scan at the beginning, but then let's scan during for QC, and then let's scan at the end for a final as-built, and then let's make a digital twin or copy. So now even every project that adopts it has 80% room to scale how they use it and how much they put into it. And that's just going to keep happening over the next several years and cause a big demand for more capability, more capacity. So I think there's a lot of growth ahead.
Absolutely. And it's funny because we see it, right? And that's what's great about your conference that's coming up, and then all the other conferences.
Yeah.
For me, those are great. I love going to those conferences because I'm usually the dumbest guy in the room, and I'm okay with that. But having these conversations, whether it's over a beer or, just networking and things like that, that's honestly my favorite part about that, is to say, hey, this is a challenge that we're having. What are you guys doing to make it better? And honestly, I feel our community is very open and kind of engaged in that side of things. But yeah, I get this. I get the idea of, this community needs to get bigger, and we need to expand on that. So,
and the other challenge, I think I've definitely seen, I think every company that is trying to scale these technologies is that there's a lack of resources.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true too. Yeah.
You can't today go hire 10 or 30 laser scanning technicians,
right,
or BIM modelers, or like the amount of people that are already skilled and experienced in any of these technologies is pretty dang limited. They're already somewhere. Yet at the same time, we're now seeing the growth of interest and adoption. So everybody's trying to hire these roles. Nobody's really producing a bunch of new ones. It's like it's all been on the job experience and internal training, and
it's tough.
So that's where I also think that same community that's coming together sharing pain points, my goal is saying, let's also start creating educational content. Let's start creating community training and a place to start producing people for the industry. Because that's another challenge that's just going to keep happening. And the only way to hire experienced people is from steal them from somewhere else.
Right.
And then that company that got stolen is going to steal from somewhere else. And it's just same people are bouncing around.
Sure.
And I also love talking about the fact that these technologies have literally created a whole industry and massive career opportunity. What degree do you have to come in and learn laser scanning and grow into being a manager in scanning or drone work,
right,
or BIM work? Or there are certain backgrounds, I believe, that would help you with that. But at the same time, when I get people that know me and know what I'm doing reach out and they're like, hey, I have this, my son is in college and doesn't know what he wants to do. Yeah. My response is like, this industry, if you just come in and you're willing to learn, right, and you're willing to just be a hard worker, there are companies that will bring you in at entry level and start teaching you how to scan. Well, what happens if you just do that and you're dedicated and you're passionate about it? Where are you in 5 years? You're now one of the most experienced, in your company, able to grow into a management position and start helping build. And so I think there's a massive opportunity for people to jump into this industry and these technologies.
Yeah, no, that's huge, because that is a pinch point for us right now, right? It's, that's also another challenge, right? Because we kind of put the cart before the horse in a sense of, let's go. We can laser scan, we can go drone, and I mean, yes, there's a lot of aspects on the field side of, or a lot of variables on the field side that you got to get right to get it right. But at the same time, it's, the field side of things, it's a lot easier than the actual office side of things. So, yes, finding that tech savvy person inside, that knows Revit and understands, survey control and understands how to stitch things together and understands what it's supposed to look like. That's still a pinch point for us, right now. So, that's where we look. Sometimes we might have to outsource, some of that Revit modeling, or look to other resources. Basically seek out. On the civil survey team, we're seeking out people that know Revit, to bring into our team so we can help kind of support that. And some people are still afraid to, they see a point cloud, they see this massive point cloud inside of Revit, and it freaks them out. And understandably so. I mean, that's a lot of data. And if you don't know how you're working with it, I mean, I remember working with LiDAR just, on the drone level, with building surfaces, and LiDAR and aerials, just that massive amounts of data, it was hard to wield. So I can understand, on the building side of things, people kind of getting freaked out. But you're right. There needs to be more of a clear avenue for those folks, and at the same time from us, promoting that, that path as well. But
absolutely. It's really cool to see. Again, like you were talking about, just the power of looking back at our journey or our story, or what the last 10 years have looked like. It has gone from 10 years ago, not a single person, that's a big statement. not a single person. Almost nobody was asking for laser scanning.
Correct.
It was still very unknown. If you called 10 architects back then, or 10 mechanical, or 10 survey companies, maybe 2 were like, we're kind of using it on projects every once in a while. Today, I don't think we're to 10, but I think if you called 10, you might get 5 or 6. And there's still 40, 50% who don't even know what it is. Mm-hmm. So there is growth, there is adoption, and you're starting to see that bigger projects and critical projects, it's actually now, where it wasn't in the past, it's becoming a requirement. You look at hospital projects, you look at airport projects, you look at roadway it's not an option anymore.
Yep.
It's not a fun thing anymore. It's not just the cool, nice looking tool. Now it's like, no, this is a requirement. We're doing a renovation. The owner is requiring scanning.
Right.
Scan to BIM so that they can take it in for design and coordination. So we're starting to see some of that transition of it's a requirement, it's growing.
Absolutely.
And I think that part is going to keep increasing and spreading the next 5 years. And it does create that challenge. Like if the industry does that in the next 5 years and we don't have some way to scale the type of people who know how to do it, we're going to very quickly exceed the amount of work and actually just not have enough people to perform it.
I know. And that's, I feel it, man. The opportunity is through the roof, right? It's just, it's out there, it's there. We've seen it. It's just, it's hard. Trust me. It's sometimes I'm like, come on, everybody. Don't you understand what's going on here? So, but the opportunities are flowing through the door, and just like to your credit, it is becoming more and more of a requirement. It's, even though sometimes the verbiage in some of these proposals, they don't even know what LiDAR is.
They don't know what they're asking for, but they know they want it.
Right. So then that's a challenge too. It's, and that's okay. That's a challenge too, because they're like, what's LiDAR? Our guys will be like, what's LiDAR? And I'm like, well, let me show you. Here's what this means. Let me, bring me in. So I'll sit in on project interviews, or I'll talk to the architect or things like that. Now on the flip side though, positive note, right? Some architects are starting to kind of realize that, which is a good thing, right? So out in California, we have a specific architect. We did a couple scan jobs for them. We saved their ass. Let's go there, right? Their as-builts are crap.
Yep.
We scanned it. Holy crap, we saved whatever.
Yep.
Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in whatever they were going to design in the first place. So they actually kind of helped us basically develop a checklist, basically kind of lay out, the different levels of detail, basically make a sheet on the different levels of accuracy that you're going to need. They helped us create this checklist. They basically, anytime they need scanning, they fill out the checklist, they send it in.
Yep.
If they got photos, floor plans, or anything like that, we've been able to kind of streamline it with that
That's
on
awesome.
it. But again, it's because they get it.
Yeah.
I think the dominoes will start to kind of fall here a little bit more on that side of things, but there's still a problem on the resource side of things.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping the awareness and things like that are starting to kind of, basically work themselves out. But resources are key, right? Yeah. Because I don't say no. I'm not going to say no to work. I'm not going to say, if I have to go out there and do the laser scanning myself, I will.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that, one of the short term, at least, well, I think it's a short term and a long term solution to resources is collaboration.
Yep.
And historically, a lot of firms have tried to stay tight and like, no, we want all the work and we're not gonna talk to you. You're our competition. And that is a wall I'm trying to break for everybody and saying like, look, no. Let's work together to share the use cases and ROIs. We're going to increase the entire demand, but then we're also going to have the relationship to say, I have way too many jobs right now. I can call you and have you help scan that one. And you're overloaded on scanning because we gave you the scan work. You need modeling help. We'll model for you. The work sharing that can really help as the industry expands. It also, one of the things that I think that would do is also help us reduce the cost to do the project, right? If I get a job in your city, why should I be flying across the country and having all this expense? So long term, if we do increase the demand, then we can also do the work share, reduce the travel, reduce the time to do the job, reduce the budget for the client. That's also going to help the client do more work because it's cheaper for them to actually do it now.
Right.
So I see that collaboration piece and building, this is part of our goal again with this community, with this network, is like, what if the majority of providers that work in these technologies were a part of an organization that could help make those connections? If you have a project in Florida right now, do you know exactly who's there and what they use and who you could trust to use? Are they pre-qualified? Is there any certifications?
Right.
What if something like that happened to where we actually had a resource that we could find those things out when we need it?
Sure.
that's a piece that I look at and I go, that would help many of us when we get in a pinch of like, who's in an area, what do they use? And the other reason I think a network or something like that would be of value is, what about the clients that have hundreds of projects?
Right.
Or the clients that have thousands of projects? In the last 12 months, I've had conversations with companies who have 3,000 locations they want to do. Tell me one service provider.
That's crazy.
Tell me one company that could handle those in a reasonable time frame for them.
Right.
Traveling to a site, doing multiple days of capture, doing all the processing of data, creating a model. Nobody can do that. In order for those large organizations who are starting to get to this vision of like, we see the value of digital twins of every asset we own because we want to manage it, we want to visualize it, we want to be able to simulate things. If we start actually pushing that vision and companies adopt and they want to move forward with that, the only way to do it is collaborating with companies.
Right. No, that's a great idea, honestly. Having a pool of resources that you can dive into, to kind of share the success and all that fun stuff.
Because otherwise it's like, if a company tried to handle that, again, resources, we can't scale to handle that.
Correct. And again, I don't want to say no.
And we don't want to say no. When a client has decided that model is valuable to me, I have this many buildings. We as a community need to have a solution for that.
Correct.
And currently we don't. Currently, anybody that tried to take that on would really struggle.
Sure.
Even with collaboration, because most companies might have like a guy or, another company they do collaboration with. It would take more than a couple companies to handle something of that volume. And when I look at a company that has that many sites, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I'll use an example of, one of the companies that's coming to our conference again and presenting is ExxonMobil.
Sure.
You look at one organization like that has hundreds or thousands. Well, now how many other companies like that are there?
Right.
And then we look at the retail side. You look at a Walmart, or Target, or a Amazon, or they all have lots of locations. They all have lots of warehouses. They all have, and there's so many of them. Many of us have worked for a couple of those. We've done a couple jobs. What happens when they all want to document all of them?
Right.
It's a lot.
Yep.
And I really believe we're going to actually move in that direction in the next 5 years.
Sure. Yeah, that's interesting. You're going to have a bunch of spot the dogs laying around in Walmarts and stuff.
It is where we get to look at, can we use technology and can we use innovation to help solve some of that volume problem?
Absolutely.
Can we get into some autonomous capture?
Absolutely.
And how do we manage that and who runs that?
Yeah.
Now we're back to day one of who's going to be the guy to start and hit their head against the wall and learn all the hard things again. And but overall, I think all of that just leads to, it's really exciting.
Yep.
It's really a fun time to be focused on these technologies, digitizing spaces, and figuring out what kind of value can we provide to different types of clients and industries.
Yep. Nope. It's crazy, man. Because like I said, just looking back even 10 years, right? It's like, we're just trying to get one project. Now, how are we going to do thousands of projects?
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty crazy journey, but it's been fun watching it definitely all evolve and actually kind of be a part of it. More or less to be, associated with other people that are passionate about it as well. But I'm looking forward to, any and all solutions for sure. Cause it's, I get to focus on what we're doing within our company and stuff like that. But again, that's where, the value of, people like you and what you're doing kind of help everybody out.
Yeah. I hope so.
And same on my end, like, right. I am an open book, right? If beauty about these conferences is I'm going to share, I have no problem sharing where I failed or what I did wrong or, how I learned from it or anything like that. Like, I'm not keeping secrets or anything tied to my chest because, I want everybody to get better. And at the same time, like, I'm going to come to you with an issue like, hey, how do I upload a gazillion gigabytes of data? How do you do it? Like, I'm hoping that people will share that, with me as well. So, I think for the most part, the community does have that mindset. And I think, are genuinely, do genuinely care about lifting everybody else up. So I think that's a great idea of, kind of having that large community and having that pool of resources to pull from, and it definitely make my job easier for sure.
Yeah, me too. All the ideas I have or the things I want to do,
sure,
they are stemmed from my last 12 years of hitting my head against the wall,
of course,
wishing I had a resource,
exactly,
wishing I had videos I could learn from, wishing I've identified things that aren't there, and I've just decided, look, instead of me just wishing they were there, I'm going to make a shift and actually build that for everybody else.
Yep.
I tell people now, my goal is not for me to become the best laser scanning company anymore.
Right.
My goal is to identify ways that I can support everybody else to become the best companies.
Sure.
Everyone else to actually learn and get through the headaches and make the connections for them and help them figure out what technology works for them and figure out who to work with on certain types of jobs. And
absolutely,
all those gaps that I've seen, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to enjoy helping people solve those problems more than knowing that that's an issue and like leaving it there.
Yep.
That's a part that I actually like to just talk about is when you identify a gap.
Okay.
When you identify that there's a problem and you think you know how to solve it, at that point, this is at least for me personally, I feel like it's my responsibility to do that.
Sure.
Instead of ignore it and go, hey, I know this problem's there in the industry, I'm just going to keep, focus on this. For me, it's like, I feel like I see that vision. I feel like that's me being given that gift of like, look,
sure,
you're in the position, you have the experience, you have the relationships, go do this thing.
Yep. No, yeah, and that's important, right? And that, I guess, I guess the gap for me was just kind of promoting it and getting it out there and, sharing our successes on what we can actually do with this. I mean, I love and I say educating, right? I love educating, just even our own team members, our MEP structural folks in-house, architects. I don't mind talking to architects. I sit in on a ton of project interviews. That's kind of another area I think that's maybe kind of lost too, that actually our firm takes advantage of is, as opposed to just, talking about the nuts and bolts of the project, we actually talk about reality capture within a project interview, right? So like even when it was huge, it was actually kind of huge. It probably won us a few large projects during COVID because with laser scanning, we could talk about it's touchless.
Yeah.
We're small footprint.
Less people traveling.
We're going to eliminate return visits, things like that. And I think within our company during that time, that a lot of light bulbs clicked on as far as, oh my gosh, like, we use PowerPoint, but all my PowerPoint slides were videos.
Yeah.
They were, GIFs or, moving images. They weren't bullet points. It was like,
let me show you.
Let me show you.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important piece that's one of the way that I really kind of translate. That's the language I use is I really utilize the visualization path to kind of get people to be like, oh, I can see it.
Yeah.
Right? Just like I was going back to, I sucked at reading 2D paper plans.
Yeah.
Just like I'm sure, there's people that won't admit it, but like, how do you read building plans? I don't know. What is this? What is this? But if I can take you to that space and kind of be in there. So that's kind of one of the things that I've been really kind of pushing, to really kind of educate our teams is like, you can see it.
Yeah.
Look. Check it out. So that's been a huge area for me. That's kind of where a lot of my focus has been to really kind of promoting our product, and then just whatever my team needs is support. I'm your guy. Whatever gap it is I need to fill, I can shift and change, and that's where one of my I can be a little bit adaptable on that side of things. But if there's and even on the same way, if you call me up and say, hey Eric, can you help me out? I got this plan, or shit, hey, I know you got a team in the scan team in the Midwest. We can't get to it.
Yep.
I hope you pick up the phone and call me.
Yep.
I'd love to help you out, and that goes for anybody and everybody out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that my goal is helping more people know who to do that with.
Right.
Because, I have literally flown from California to New York to scan a staircase.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, we got to get to the point that for things like that, nobody knows who to call.
Sure.
It's like a client finds one service provider. They literally think that service provider invented the technology and nobody else does this. And I get from a business side, when you're the one who has that work, you're like, this is great. You know, I get to do all their business. But long term, I think as we can increase the volume of the industry in whole, we don't have to stay into every single little thing. At a certain size of a project, we should absolutely try to use someone local. That is a small effort. There is somebody, I know there's someone nearby. Someone can drive over there and do that.
Right.
So I think getting those resources together is going to be awesome.
Yep. Huge. But yeah, at a small scale, right? It is like, oh shit, I know Eric's got a team out in Virginia. He can get up there and kind of do something like that. But you're right. You're right on that. So hopefully, with conferencing, obviously, conference season is coming up, right? We're gonna reconnect with a lot of connections. That's definitely one thing I always promote, and even the folks that sell us our scanners and drones, like I tell them, like, because sometimes I'll do some side gigs and things like that. It's like, throw a bone my way. Like, if I can help you, I will. If we have the resources to do it, we'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. What area, when we look at the different technologies, and obviously, like you said, you guys have kind of grown and scaled what types of tools you're using or what types of things you're doing. What would be something that you're not really deep into yet that you maybe see in your path?
Interesting question. So you kind of brought it up, and this has kind of been a vision of ours for a little bit. But you're right. The kind of the whole life cycle of a building or construction or anything like that, and honestly beyond that. I think right. So my degree's in GIS and GPS. So I think there's something. I think there's something there with, having that digital twin, and then even kind of taking it a little bit further onto the asset management side of things. I think there's a big opportunity there. So that's kind of a little bit of our focus, in the next few years. Especially kind of with, Esri kind of getting into our platform now, working through that and working with our GIS team to try to mesh that. So we're already kind of collaborating on that front to kind of look to that. So that's one area as far as the reality capture stuff goes. We just got our first underwater drone actually last week. So I'm going back to one of the reasons I'm going back to the Midwest is to go check that thing out.
Cool.
So we do underwater inspections.
Awesome.
So my guy's like, hey, I need, is there any way I can get this underwater drone? I'm like, hell yeah. Like, yes, you can. Yes, this is great. It's you can get into it. The price point's right.
Cool.
Everything's good. So, kind of starting to get below the surface, kind of stuff, we're in there, right? We got a couple of drone boats, right? I mentioned our subsurface utility team, we utilize GPR, not only for structural, but for utility locating. Right. And then, obviously the whole aerial drone side of things, with, we have LiDAR payloads, we obviously get into photogrammetry and all that fun stuff on the inspection side of things. But, and then obviously, beyond visual line of sight, that's going to obviously open a lot of things up on our end. Mobile map, just more of the mobile mapping kind of things is kind of another, area. Obviously and everybody talks about it, right? It's like being able to use your cell phone to go in and anywhere and on that side of things. But I think we're in a good spot as far as having a solid foundation and understanding what's going on. But also we get a little creative. It's fun. I'm actually proud of kind of how creative we get with some of the technology. But recently we I'll get people that call me. One of our structural engineers called an asset and said, hey, we need to do a structural inspection inside of a greenhouse. There's birds flying around. There's a lot of, we can't get a boom truck up there. So can we use a drone to kind of do some inspection in here? And I'm like, it's like, okay, we could figure it out. So I ended up mounting a 360 camera on top of the drone. Not only did I get drone footage, but I also was hitting record and was kind of flying around in there. So that was kind of like a fun little, collaborative tool. But I think that's another part of it too, as far as the future goes, is combining these technologies, right? we're doing it already with with drone and laser scanning.
Yep.
So we'll get the outside with the drone, we'll get the inside with the laser scanner, and we'll combine those things up. So I think that's obviously kind of hinting towards the future, but as far as services go, and then just the autonomous stuff too, right?
Yeah.
AI is going to take over.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And maybe that's the solution for the resource and the modeling side of things, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for a little bit, but at the same time, somebody needs to run it and check it and do all that fun stuff. But I kind of see that. I mean, it's unbelievable. Just the kind of, there's stuff I don't even think about that somebody's going to call me next week and I'm gonna try to. It's gonna drive me batshit crazy until I come up with a solution for it.
That is the fun thing. Is like once you get good experience with different tools, that's where I tell people now. I'm like, look, I have done the variety of projects that I'm confident. No matter who you are, what type of job you want to do, we can help you figure it out or put the game plan together. What is it that you need to capture? How accurate does it need to be? Mm-hmm. What platform do you need to be able to use the data in? And then you can reverse engineer the whole path of here's how we would control it. Here's the types of units you could capture it with based on that accuracy or density. And you can build out that whole program now to say, there's the solution.
Yep.
And there's going to be things that are outside of that then we have to go, oh, wait a minute. Now you want to know the thermal of the capture. Like what? Yep. Okay, yes, we can add that camera. It's fun when you find a new project or a new challenge you haven't done. It's not like, here's another little office building. It's like, yes, we know how to do those. We do those in and out. Like, what's a new problem?
Yep.
What's something that's unique that is a project that doesn't really have a set way to do it yet?
Exactly.
Those are fun to help with.
And that's honestly, that's the best part of my job, man. Is I get some pretty crazy phone calls and it's just interesting.
I do think that we talked about, and you're saying one of the areas is expanding into that like life cycle of projects.
Absolutely.
I think that's where the industry in whole is like that idea of scan at the beginning, scan for QC, scan at the end. I think is so new. Like it's getting to the point it's an obvious thing, but if you were to pick 20 companies who already do scanning, they're still doing it for that beginning piece and not yet into the program piece. But I think getting that like project life cycle implemented is step one. And then step two is, like you said too, mixing in with the GIS and with the asset management. And that's where I like my example of companies who have thousands of locations. We're showing how awesome this tool is, showing how awesome these technologies are. We're convincing them and showing them what digital twins are and the value they can get. That's where they're going to want to move is, look, is there a platform or can we create one in the future that we're not just scanning at the beginning of the job, but we want all of our assets. We want to scan all of them, and we want to be able to open in a GIS type format and say, show me my whole organization. And now let me click over here and go to this building. Mm-hmm. Let me look at the timeline of like scanned before the project. Now open and show me current, what's the current progress of the renovation? Like that's where a lot of times, because I talk to so many people, they ask me, what's the next technology? I'm like, my answer currently and in the past has been, I don't even care what the next technology is. I just think we need to take all the existing technologies and actually start formulating these ecosystems and these workflows of how can we go from just a scan or just a drone flight to mixing them in a way that now you have the inside, you have the outside, you have the underground, and it's into a model, and now it's in a visualization platform that owner can access their data and see what's above, see what's below, click on it and get temperature readings or life information. That's what excites me about where we're at today in the industry is the scanners are fast enough. The data is beautiful enough. Now it's let's actually start building out those whole programs.
Right. No, I fully agree with that. It's Definitely that's kind of where we're at, right? Is combining these different technologies, being able to utilize all these different tools, right? So, we got an underwater drone, we got above air drone, we got LiDAR drone, we got boat drones, whatever. How do we mix those all together? Same thing on the laser scanning side of things. But leveraging these technologies to basically help and create this whole system and everything, this this huge database of information that somebody can easily access. And that's a kind of another part. It's got to be on the user end. It's got to be easy. It's got to be visual, and it's got to be anybody can kind of get in there and do it. So that's kind of a whole separate challenge. But I think GIS is kind of a way to leverage that because everybody's already familiar with it. But,
and even thankfully the GIS side, and then also just in the last 5 years, we've seen companies that have put a specific focus. They see this, they see the future, and they're developing softwares or platforms to be able to ingest this data, host it online, make it user friendly, and exactly. You can pass it to more people. That's the part that I've heard from a lot of people is one of the ways to scale this adoption is how do we get the same data in more people's hands across an organization? Because historically, you look at an engineering firm and our architecture firm, there's that one guy in the company who knows how to take a point cloud, right? Then there's all these other people that are like, don't give me that. Like, I just need a model. How do we fix that? How do we make it to where the data is easier to use for a wider amount of people? And I think it's through things like that. You can create a platform, or you can create a deliverable that's easier for them to integrate. And we start scaling it when the data can hit 10 people's hands instead of one, or then 100 instead of 10. You make it the same amount of effort of capture now has 10, 20, 50 times the value to that company.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and that's key, right? It's I used to be in sales, so possession was 9/10 of the law. If you got it in their hands and they actually got them to use it, hopefully they'd learn to kind of appreciate it and things like that. So yeah, I think exposure is a huge a huge deal too. And yeah, again, not somebody just solely singularly owning it, but actually, hey, check this out, and I think maybe one of the solutions too would be, hey, we don't have a resource to, actually model it. Can you help us out on that? Maybe even go back to an architect and saying, hey, do you have a resource? We'll show them how to do it. Maybe we can work together, things like that. So I've kind of thought about, little things like that as far as, getting that exposure and things like that. But yeah, the visual side of things, with regards to, being able to share those links, where somebody doesn't have to log in or anything like that. That's another thing I'll promote too is, hey, use these in a meeting. You don't break out the PDF or anything like that. You go straight to this link, take them to the site, extract measurements there. You're talking about the specific space, take them there. So that's kind of one of the things I've been trying to promote too, is like, use this. This is what it's for.
Well, and this reminded me, I wanted to get into this a little while back when you were talking, and then I forgot. We talked about the difficulty of looking at plans, and it's all 2D and it's flat, and sometimes it's hard to even understand what you're looking at. And 3D is just so natural to us. It's what we want to see. The other change we're seeing though, right, is who's entering the workforce now? Who are the new engineers? Who are the new architects? Who are the new facilities managers? They're people that went through school now who are not coming from a 2D background. They're going to school having iPhones and scanners in their pocket. They're used to playing video games in 3D. They like VR. They don't want to go into a workplace and revert back 30 years and go, I don't even know how to read drawings.
That's interesting.
So that over the next 5 and 10 years, and even today, is going to start shifting what that client wants. They're going to grow into the management positions in the organizations that decide, are we making this shift? Are we moving to 3D? Are we going to take all of our record drawings and take the time to convert those into models? That's going to start pushing change.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that you say that, because I think it'll be a good thing for the industry for sure, right? Because like you said, that these guys are highly visual. One of the things we actually do, especially with our interns or our new engineers, we kick them out to the field. We make them go pound hubs or go inspect a site and things like that. That's something that we kind of do off the bat, because these 4-year degree guys, they're reading books. They don't really get out too much. I've never really been out to a construction site, so I think that's always helpful. But some of our best some of our best modelers and some of our best technicians, they're those 2-year tech guys. And those have been proven to be like the most successful resources to kind of dive in and figure things out.
Yeah.
They love to tinker. They love to troubleshoot. They love to come up with new solutions, things like that. But our guys and gals that we get from those 2-year tech schools have been proven to really kind of improve the technical savvy inside the office and with regards to modeling and things like that. Yeah. So that's kind of another area that I like to, because I am a 2-year tech school guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Most of those folks, they kind of had to work through college. They had, they didn't go to the 4-year university. Yeah. So, but at the same time, they learn like me.
Yeah.
I got to get my hands on it.
Yeah.
I'm not reading a book and studying and taking a test.
Yeah.
I want to actually go out in the field and, prove that I can do this kind of deal. So
I went to no school.
Yeah. Awesome.
I have 0 college. And I love to talk about that because I'm early in my career still. Yep. I'm young. I didn't go to college. I got into the job when I first started in surveying. I was doing the old, pounding nails, and then I came in the office and started learning traditional CAD. And I honestly tell people too, like back when I first started in survey, it was not a fun, attractive job.
Yep.
It was difficult work. You're working on a crew. You're working in the heat. You're in oil fields. The technology is what got me excited about work. Yep. The technology is what changed my whole career. I went from the guy that was younger that was like, man, I have to go to work today. I got to get up early. I'm going to be sitting in the truck. It's going to be hot work out in the field, laborious. In just a matter of a couple years, when I learned about scanning and I started shifting my focus, I became the passionate guy that's like wanting to get in early. I want to go play with the point cloud. I want to take the scanner out and figure out how to use it. And that got me excited about work. I look back on my journey in learning and what that did for my whole career. Now I try to encourage younger people and don't just go get a job. Find a job that you are going to be able to be excited about, because what do we as leaders or business owners or department managers, what do we want in an employee?
Yep.
We want somebody who comes in and is interested in their work, that isn't the bare minimum guy. They're the ones that are like, look, I want to grow. I want to learn. I want to work hard.
Yep.
That's also why I say college isn't for everybody. If you don't know what you want to do yet, don't go to college yet. Because if you ask 70% of people what their degree is, it's in something else that they're not even doing.
Right.
If you're interested in these technologies, companies will, if you're willing to just work hard, they're willing to bring you in and let you learn. Yep. And you can grow so much with hands-on experience. Don't be afraid of the fact you don't have a degree. In fact, I encourage people, if you see a job posting that has technology and it's something you want to get into and it says it requires a degree, personally I'm like, nope. I would still try.
Yep.
Go apply. If you just approach the person that's doing the hiring or the manager and you show interest and you're passionate, you did a little research, I'll skip the degree.
I'll hire a hungry guy all day long, guy or gal for sure. Yeah, give me that motivation, give me that passion.
Yeah. And I've made
absolutely.
Over the years of hiring different people, I used to try to hire based on the resume.
Mm-hmm.
I used to try to hire based on here's the experience you had before.
Yep.
And then I've gotten people that came in and they were not good workers.
Yep.
They were still the I want to do the minimum guy. Then I've got guys that came in that had 0 experience and in a matter of a year started exceeding the work of the people who had the background.
Yep.
So as much as I love talking about technology, I also try to talk to people just about your passion, your excitement, your enthusiasm, your dedication. If you really want to grow in a career in this industry, that's one of the key things. Not even what your technical ability is, but that piece will take you so far so fast.
Absolutely. And that's honestly, the secret to my success, right, is nobody gave me direction on, hey, we should be getting into this. We should be. It was we're going to do this.
Yep.
This is what we're doing. This is awesome. This is cool. We need to be kind of getting into this, but it does take that special type of character to be able to take this on. And they're out there. Those folks are out there, and you're right. They're, it's you can't teach or train. that dedication or that drive sometimes. So I'd hire that, over a better qualified person, unfortunately, all day long.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do have to know, just like you're saying you did and I did too, when you're doing something new, you have to know that you're going to hit headaches.
Absolutely.
You have to know that you might have a failure, and you have to be the kind of person that's willing to say, look, I'm going to own up to the good stuff and the bad stuff.
Yep.
And I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be open, and I'm going to be transparent, and that will, again, help you navigate as you learn and as you go through those things.
Yep, that's huge. And that's huge too, right? It's being able to own it. Being able to own your mistakes is huge, right? And I have no problem sharing with anybody my failures and some of them are pretty epic or whatever, but it's either way. I made it all right, but the first step of that is owning it.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of another hard quality to teach, like when you're interviewing somebody or, when it's easy to point fingers somewhere else, but sometimes you just got to swallow it and keep going, keep moving forward. But
well, you hear from major successful people all the time, right? That you learn a lot more from failures than you do from success.
Yep.
And so that's why I love trying to encourage people, like, don't be afraid to talk about what didn't go right. Like,
exactly.
You're showing that you're willing to share that.
Yep.
Nobody wants to only hear the good stuff from you,
exactly.
Right? If I approach a project, I might even share what I think could go wrong.
Yep.
Or like, hey, this project is unique. Like, it is difficult.
Yep.
This is how I'm going to approach it. Maybe I haven't done this before. Even sharing that sometimes.
Sure.
Because the client will hear, like, at least they're being honest of like, hey, they have a good approach. They're coming to it with these technologies. They've given a good explanation of like how they're going to do it. As opposed to just, we definitely know, but we can't show you any examples of past ones, or,
That's
I think
huge.
Honesty in any scenario, as an employee or with the clients.
And especially in the scanning world, because it's, the likely reason they want it scanned is because they don't have photos, they don't have as-built, they don't have anything. So a lot of times you're getting into a space where you're flying blind.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared. Do we got to get above the ceiling? Is it going to be dark up there?
Yeah.
How much space is up there? Do I need ladders? Do I need door shims? Do I need, what's going on? Is it a mess? Is there junk in the way? Is all kinds of things. So, I think being honest and open about what the challenges may be, I think that's important too. So, but being able to articulate that to whoever you need to.
Yeah. Well, man, I know we've hit a lot in our time. I feel like we could do this for hours.
Heck yeah,
Sometimes
man.
we do that.
No, this is fun.
So as we maybe wind down, I've been asking this question, and I like asking it. So we just talked about kind of like your experience, your history. We talked about even recently, like the hardworking, the honesty. But if we went back and you were to give yourself advice 20 years ago, or maybe advice that would translate to people who are entering their role in this industry right now, like what's some career advice or some advice you would give them on a personal and business level?
So we just touched on it. I think the first and foremost, for me, it's give it a shot, give it a try. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. But own it, move on, and then, teach somebody else, and don't be afraid to share, your failures and your successes. Just, be passionate about what you do, and, give, excuse my French, but give a shit.
Yeah.
And care about what you're actually doing, and what you're actually providing, to the client or anything like that. Like, take pride in what you do. That's huge, right? So, persistence is huge. It's to be successful. Sometimes you're going to hit those walls, but you got to keep moving on.
Yeah.
And sometimes they might, be lessons learned, or they might be, the boss getting in the way or something like that, but you got to keep pushing forward. But I think first and foremost is don't be afraid to dive in, and don't be afraid to learn from your mistakes. It's okay. It's okay to fail.
Yeah. No, those are all great. I think there's there's so much value in that. And as simple as those may sound, right?
Yep.
Like those are challenges most people hit. Yep. So many people are afraid of even approaching and asking.
Yep.
Like.
Yep, exactly. I think yes, not only approaching and asking, but just making a decision and going with it. That's something that's something that's hard to find right now. It's like, okay, here's this site, go out. I know just as much as you. I trust you that you're going to figure it out. Figure it out. Make a decision, own it. It's okay. I'm not going to ream you.
Yep.
We'll fix it. We'll make it right. Making a decision, moving forward, and kind of things like that. That's huge too. Don't be afraid to make a decision, even if it's a bad decision.
Yeah, and the biggest thing about failures, right? People talk about failure. It's only a failure if you don't learn from it. Like the best thing you can do when you're in a process of constantly doing new things or new technologies is take the time to identify what didn't go amazing, right? Or what was a failure, what was a struggle, and take the time to digest that with a team or with your leader. And then how do we implement changes to maybe improve it next time? And if you do that constantly and consistently, you're going to see major improvement. Over each project, over each year, failure is failure if you don't learn from your mistakes. If you keep making the ssame mistakes, that's a problem.
Yes, and that's the key, right? Yeah, I say it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's okay to make it once or twice, but don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to improve, you want to learn, but being willing to try new things, think outside the box, courage to talk with leaders, that's another thing I've seen is that a lot of employees, especially in bigger companies, that might be more challenging, but then you got mid-sized companies, you got smaller companies. Don't be afraid to go to your leader and present an idea.
Exactly.
That's how also we're going to see these new technologies implement is it may not even be from the top down. It's that guy down in there that's in a role. It's like, hey, you saw something on YouTube, you saw something about this new technology, go to your leader and be like, hey, I saw this. I think it would be helpful in this way. And, that's that courage piece. It's the not being afraid of rejection or what they think of you. I think all those things will help people in their journey. Yeah.
And you kind of you were touching on it. But ask questions, reach out to your peers. Again, the reason I go to these conferences is because I know I'm the dumbest guy in the room, and I want
It's not quite true, but that's the goal. That should be the goal.
That is the goal. That is the goal. But that's kind of the place I put myself in because I know that I can learn something from you. I know I can learn from somebody in that room.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I mean by that.
Absolutely.
When I say that.
Always knowing that you have more to learn. Remaining teachable, remaining humble, never being the guy that's like, I know everything. Nope. I try to do the same thing. My whole goal with this is, sure, I have a background and experience, but my goal now is finding everybody else in the industry that's better than me.
Exactly.
And bringing them together to meet, to learn, to share.
Because we're all going to lift each other up.
We are, yeah. That saying, right? The all boats rise with the tide.
Exactly.
That's the goal now is, how do we work together to make the tide rise? All the boats are going with it.
Absolutely.
So it's a fun time in the industry. Again, appreciate you coming in to share your journey, your story, what you guys are doing.
Heck yeah, man. No, thanks for having me, man. This has been fun, man. I had a great time.
Good. Well, all right, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks again for listening.